Hey Virgo, happy solar returns. If you have an August birthday, this is your August 2025 soul story. If you have a sun rising or moon in the sign, this is your reading. It's Romy. Thanks so much for joining me on the channel. We're going to open up for you this month with the energy of temperance. What you want, what you need, what is destined, what is unfolding takes a little time and it requires a little patience. And in this season of Leo, which of course illuminates your 12th house, there is a need to make peace, because that's what's going to help to restore the harmony and the balance within you, mind, body and soul. Sometimes the 12th house is known as a time of unraveling. You know, what is going on behind the scenes can feel a little bit messy. You know, there's a healing that's underway, but alongside it there is a deep knowing, there is a profound truth, and I think that there is blinding self-awareness that is necessary in terms of preparing and setting you up to step forth into your new solar return season, right? So this, as a month in terms of making peace, will ensure that you don't bring about more resistance or really get in your own way. And I think that's one of the messages I really want you to take from this August soul story is like, don't get in your own way. Don't self-sabotage. Don't talk yourself out of things. Don't let outside opinion or influence get in the way of the vision or the knowing, the truth, the certainty that you have in terms of what comes next for you, okay? So as we move into August, it's in some ways less polished and perfect and a little bit more real and rustic, if you like, which is not always easy for a sign that, you know, is intent on wanting to make everything in its right order. But I think there's also a part of you that's almost like welcoming of that in some ways. Maybe you're just looking for a different way to approach something. Maybe you're just wanting to experience what it feels like to not put yourself under that same sort of pressure or obligation. The Nine of Wands is a reminder that, you know, you have a finite amount of available energy at any given moment to direct in specific ways, and that you have to be incredibly discerning and incredibly strong in your boundaries in August as to where that gets directed, okay? I also want to say to you, stay with it. Don't check out, especially at the 11th hour, right? There's something that may feel like it's going to test or challenge you right at the point where you thought you'd sort of hit a home run or you were free and clear. But what lies on the other side is, I feel, better than expected, more than you anticipated, an outcome that will serve you in even greater ways than you can perhaps foresee. So August is a little bit of a tricky one. I feel like it's one of these seasons where we're not kind of expecting it to be what it is, right? You know, maybe it sort of creeps up on us a little bit in terms of the ways that it challenges and tests us. Now, Mars is going to shift into Libra on the 6th of the month, right? And we're taking action from a place of wanting it to be fair, to be just, to be balanced, to kind of make sure that everybody's happy. Is that possible? You know, is that realistic? One would say no. Is it an easy placement for Mars to be in? No. Now, from the 6th, when Mars shifts into Libra, we then have, you know, a series of days and a time of the month that's going to feel a little bit more challenging than we would like it to. But, you know, we can work with it, right? So Lionsgate arrives on the 8th, and we're going to see Mars opposition to Saturn, okay? The 9th, we're going to see Mars opposition to Neptune. And then that's going to also see the full moon in Aquarius, you know, add to the conversation. What does that look like? Structures are going to start to dissolve. You know, everything's going to feel a bit liquid, a bit fluid, a bit kind of restrictive. It's going to feel like there's a mirage. It's like we feel overwhelmed, we feel overloaded. There's a spike. You know, there's a surge of something. And, you know, collectively and individually, it's going to feel like it's just honestly, you know, testing us in some way or form, okay? But it's temporary. And what it's also going to do, and I think in a really powerful way, is sort of reorientate you towards what your emotional response is going to be, not just in August, but actually from this point forth, because there's this realization that's just like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth what it costs me to actually try to fight against this, or to try and get myself, you know, so out of balance again. I'm not prepared to do it. And I think that's the real win that can come from whatever it is that you end up being triggered or affected by, either collectively or individually. It will, in some way, shape, or form, with that full moon in Aquarius, affect your sense of feeling free, you know. The thing to bear in mind is what comes as a result of it. And remember, that Nine of Wands is like a wounded warrior energy, right? But it also sort of throws up the theme of trust, right? I want to say to you, you know, you don't need to be right all the time. Let yourself learn, let yourself evolve, let yourself be informed, you know, hold the space to not knowing what you don't know. I think that's going to go a long way around that period of August. We come out of it though, right? And then we move directly into what could be regarded as one of the most beautiful days, astrologically speaking, of the year. Now, is it really amplified because of the challenges building up to it? You know, perhaps we don't get quite the upside we would like, but we've got the Six of Wands here, right? So there's this sense of victory, this sense of it coming together and being presented and positioned and expressed in a way that feels good. So what happens on the 11th? We're finally going to see Mercury going direct in Leo. Beautiful. But we see Venus conjunct with Jupiter, big dreams, power day, right? And then supporting Saturn sextile to Uranus, we get inventive. We are having surprise solutions. There are workarounds. There are ways to deal with some of the challenges and the tests that we've just been put through. And they're going to work. Six of Wands, okay? So August is also a time for announcements, for adjustments, and really for the attitude that we bring to the table. And that's the thing I really want you to keep in mind, okay? This is why I'm saying stay with it, all right? I think there are things that rock your world, and you're not being dramatic, you know? I think there are things that are impacting you on a deep, deep level. Not everyone is seeing it, because people are living in a completely different world and a different reality to yours, okay? That's okay. But you have to keep honoring what it is that you are experiencing. And the reality is that you're not behind anywhere. You're just meant to go perhaps in a different direction to where they are. This is your plan. This is your vision. This is your blueprint. This is your destiny, okay? So we know what we're up against in this kind of mid-month muddle, if you like, but the 11th sort of brings that silver lining, that bright illumination. And like I said, you know, when you come through it, and sometimes it just feels like a little bit of a spiritual slap, doesn't it? It feels like a test or a challenge that, you know, we kind of weren't prepared for, although in hindsight we're sort of almost accepting of like, well, yeah, this probably needed to happen. But as we come out of that, you know, you're then working with this Leo energy, remembering that Leo brings it and shines a light on it and gives you the courage and the bravery to really face and own and see in yourself sometimes the things that, you know, it's harder to celebrate and champion. And with that, you almost like put into motion a whole new set of like really beautiful, big soul-led goals. And so there's a sort of reorientating experience that I think is underway in that first part of August. And it's been supported, I think, with Mercury, you know, having been retrograde in Leo, because it helps you pour back over, you know, the details of things, and honestly really enables you to finally make peace, right? Because 12th house is about that ending, and Temperance is coming in with a very healing balm to support you in regards to that. So where there have been people or things that had to come back around, and look back into your life, and perhaps that was disruptive, and perhaps it was even a little upsetting to have to deal or to navigate with that, but nonetheless you emerge from it, and as you power toward Virgo season, there's a clarity that is felt within you, that I think is really enabling you to just know what needs to be done, right? You just know what needs to be done. Six of Cups, we have to take the lessons from the past, okay? Now, yes, there's this sort of wave of nostalgia that's also flowing through you, I think, as you're making choices and coming to decisions and taking action, even in terms of, your next steps, what the next move looks like. And, it can be bittersweet. I think, what I'm getting with that Six of Cups is it's really bittersweet. It's like you're doing this, you have to do this. There's a part of you that wants to do this, but it still is, I suppose, reminding you or showing you the distance, or, the change of what was, what used to be, what is now, what is going to become. And it's all right to grieve. It's all right to look back and to reminisce and to sort of, sit in the energy of that memory. I think that's important. It just helps you to integrate the experience. And, as much as we are soul seekers, there's a real directive at the moment to be what it is that you are becoming, so that you can welcome and meet the manifestations that are on their way in for you, okay? So as the sun shifts into your sign on the 22nd, we're also going to welcome the new moon in Virgo. Page of Cups. You're literally walking through this gateway, There is a very much a feeling of that was then, this is now. Okay, and I see you even sort of using those words. So it may be that you change your mind powerfully on something, something you said you'd never do, something that you said you never agreed with or didn't believe in. This is why I'm saying you're going to have to almost like hold space for what you didn't know, because I think it may be that there's new information, new details, new insights. You can thank Uranus and Gemini for that are going to really challenge you to change your mind on something. And I think that can be helpful for you, that can be beneficial. It can expand your mind, your horizons. A whole new set of possibilities can exist because of that. So we've got this watery energy that's very emotionally charged. So there's also something about what is unfolding as you move toward the end of August that's sort of sitting on your heart space, not in a negative way, but in a sort of loaded way. You're just like, wow, like this really means something to me. This really matters. I feel really moved by this. Whether it's a relationship, something that's going on in work with your family, but that there's a sort of a gravitas to it that helps you to, I suppose, prioritize things a little bit differently in your life at that time. I think there's a really meaningful exchange that also is underway, where perhaps you're able to be more honest with someone, more open than you have in the past, or that you are feeling that from someone else. And again, when Mercury goes direct, perhaps what had been lost in translation or had felt a little challenging to be able to discuss, negotiate, or really work through, then just gets a sort of second chance, if you like, to be resolved, accepted, and to make peace with, right? And I think it's okay to sort of come to that conclusion that, maybe we want different things, or maybe this is who you are, this is who I am, or we don't have to agree, or there's something about like the opposites also being met with love and harmony and a sense of balance and unity, which doesn't necessarily have to separate or pull apart, but can be understood and sort of unified in its own opposing way in some aspect, okay? I also think there's a realization that you have to use what you have, okay? You have to use what you have. So sometimes we're seeking, we're searching, we're always looking for something else. When I acquire this, or when I learn how to do that, or when I get or, accumulate something else, then I'll be ready. No, you're ready now. You are prepared for this moment now. But what you have to do is use what you know and work with what you've got. And maybe that means an adjustment. Maybe it means sort of changing how you see it, or how it's expressed, or what you do with it. But if you can kind of get on board with that, then you've got something really valuable and powerful to say, to share, you know, and also to help you in stepping in with your solar returns to become what the expanded and the new version of you is meant to be. Okay, so that new moon is going to be about powerfully planting those seeds of like, right, what am I going to do with everything I've accumulated, the experiences that have shaped me? Okay, Seven of Swords says you gotta be like strategizing in the right way. You know, you gotta be clever about this, Virgo. Right? You gotta be smart. You gotta outwit. You know, you've gotta outmaneuver. You know, just like I'm not picking this up as like a sort of more negative shadow aspect of the seven. I just think it's about how you manage and sort of almost like give yourself the fluidity and the flexibility to adapt quickly to shifting and changing circumstances and events around you. And as you sort of put those plans into motion, remembering what I said, you know, polished and perfect is not really the order of the day, you know, through this mid part of the year, you know, because so much is happening so quickly that you kind of have to just move with it and make those sort of on the fly choices and decisions, and things might feel a little bit, you know, more raw, but that's okay. You're also choosing when to share, what to share, how to share, what to do. And I think there's an innate understanding that you have in regards to that actually you're trying to do the right thing in that regard. You know, maybe it's about they're just not ready to hear it, you know, or you have to kind of prepare the conditions or set the scene or kind of plant the seeds. I think that's okay. So, you know, sometimes the energy of the Seven of Swords is wholly necessary in any given situation, because from a higher perspective, you know the order, the divine order that's going to be the right way. I think though that there is a sort of heads up, if you like, that, you know, as we move toward the end of August, that, you know, one of the things that's important is for you not to carry the guilt, okay? If there is an experience, an event, a situation that you're feeling into that sense of guilt, you know, I've got to do this, but it means this. I've done this and it's going to impact in that way. And it's like you're overthinking and you're trying to second guess how people would respond or how it would affect or how the ripple of that will play out. And you really don't have the control in terms of that. You have no idea of how the emotional responses will continue to play out in relation to something. So the guilt is wholly unhelpful and unnecessary. So be very mindful of where it might be peaked or triggered in some way, shape or form, and work hard to try to dissipate that, okay? And if someone is trying to guilt trip you, then, you know, there's an opportunity there again to, I think, have compassion and really sit in the energy of what would love do in this moment, which I know can be super hard when you're dealing with super tricky people. But that is the higher evolved version of you right now, okay? And most importantly, do not take this energy and this stress and this guilt and this lower vibrational frequency into the body. Let it be carried by the winds and the water and the nature that can clear and ground and restore the balance and harmony in you. Temperance says you have to find that balance and hold it as much as you can, regardless of what is going on around you. Yes, there is an unraveling that is taking place, and you might witness it very much in, you know, an up close and personal way or in a collective space through the month of August. But you can still make peace with everything that's going on. You have to, right? And sometimes you have to tell people, but more importantly, you have to show them, okay? Because they can hear the words, but it really isn't until they understand through the actions that you're taking what you're really about, what your intention really is, where you're really going, what this really means to you, what you really stand for. And I think that that's very important as you enter into a time of the year where you're all about then showing and shining in your true self and saying, this is what I've learned, this is how I've changed, and this is now me, right? So make peace with as much as you can. Otherwise you are going to find yourself being kind of sucked in to old storylines or others' opinions or stuff that's just trying to derail you from actually the things that really matter and what you're really meant to be addressing in yourself this month, which is absolutely, how do I prepare myself for this next level of greatness that I'm capable of? How do I let in the things that are lined up and waiting for me? How do I do that? Right? I have to go in the direction that I am meant to. If you're new to the channel, the last 3 cards we're going to look at in my extended reading, you're going to find that link in the comment and description box underneath. I hope you'll join me. It's a way that I'm going to be able to keep showing up to do the free readings. I know it's you know, a difficult time, and I really appreciate, you know, the investment that you make in the exchange that we have, and you know, I'm invested in giving you as much insight as I possibly can. We look at a personal and a relationship card in the extended reading. Talk for another 25 minutes or so. What I'm going to do is go ahead and clarify the cards and see what we will pull through to look at in that extended reading, Virgo. So just beginning with Temperance, what are we bringing through? We've got the Page of Wands and the Page of Swords. Right, interesting. 9 of Wands is seeing 4 of Swords and the 5 of Swords. Now please do check out romywiser.com. You're going to find ways to work with me for personal readings. You're going to find my reports, my astrocartography, goddess and angel energy. You're going to find all my sacred products, my journal, my book, my deck, my membership. You'll also learn about the brand new website I've just launched, the Majorca Soul Diaries. I am emigrating, I am moving my family in the next few weeks, and I have launched a new healing retreat for October 26th in Majorca. So please follow me at my new blog. You'll find all the links over on romywiser.com. And let's see where this takes us. Okay. I think, you know, you've like I said, like there's a trickiness to August that, you know, we're all going to be sort of leaning into. You've got your 5, your 3 of Swords. You know, there's a little bit of a challenge that sort of rears up for you, but I think there's such a almost like kind of stoicism in terms of you just acknowledging and saying, okay, like I need to be where I'm at with this, but I'm not gonna let it change me. I'm not gonna let it stop me, and I'm not gonna let it dissolve the vision that I know is the right one for me. It's very important. There's a deeper level of faith and certainty and trust that's been given to you on a spiritual level, and this is the thing that you're going to have to hold fast and steady with all the way through August, and really all the way through the course of this year, because there's so much flux and change and contrast in the collective. Right, let's have a look at Life Soul Vision Oracle. How is it joining this conversation? Soul Star energy. We've got encoded footprints. We've got the Spirit Stag, heavenly timing. We have Equinox, balanced release, the Spirit Owl, and the Spirit Lion. All the animals showing up for you this month. That's beautiful. I love that Spirit Owl, along with, again, the 7 of Swords. Just the wisdom that you bring to the sort of strategy that's needed, but in a really sort of healing, medicinal way for yourself is palpable. Okay, oh, look at that. We've got the astrology card of Virgo. I love that for you. I think it just brings an amplification of who you are and how you show up as who you are in this time that is your opportunity to shine, right? So thanks for joining me. Please do come on to the extended. It's really appreciated. Thanks for subscribing, and I'm going to see you again next time. Have a beautiful solar returns if you've got a birthday this month. Bye for now.